Good morning. You've all heard the expression. Okay. تسمعوني?
Yes.
Okay, I'll speak in English for the benefit of Dr. Jones and others in the room. Good morning. You've all heard the expression shooting the messenger. So on real estate, I'd like to reluctantly introduce myself. I am the messenger. The title of this conference is Lebanon 2025, but before we go to Lebanon 2025, you have to go through Lebanon 2016, 17, 18, and so forth. For anyone who has followed the Lebanese economy the last few years, the real estate sector has played an outsized role in the GDP growth for the last few years. And by real estate sector, I mean its derivatives as well, مشتقاته يعني. E.g. employment of engineers, designers, architects, marketers, brokers, import companies, and so forth. Therefore, for the next few years, where this sector goes, so goes the country. I have some good news and bad news. I'll start with the bad news. I'm afraid I will have to continue the themes that were delineated by the previous speakers, who were very, very brave in telling the truth. I was expecting one of those sessions where, you know, the feel-good, cedar tree, greenery, everything's fine type thing. But I think that all the speakers were very honest. So I was afraid I'm going to be the only one honest, but in fact, we're all consistent. So this talk will be excessively weighted towards the challenges part of the title. I will not mince words like one of those Southern evangelists on American cable TV. The real estate sector, which was clearly a classic bubble, is now at the beginning of a major correction. The lack of transparency has actually aggravated the situation and prevented any possibility of a soft landing. I can get into all kinds of reasons and analyses of why this has happened, but ultimately it comes down to the basics that are the cause of all bubbles that have occurred in every country and every era. Excessive supply relative to demand. It's as simple as that. To see this, all you have to do is look around you and see the number of buildings with low occupancy, not to mention all the new ones that are coming online or supposed to come online to compete with the existing unsold inventory. Of course, bubbles can go on for a very, very long time, but in every case, a catalyst always serves to prick the bubble. To understand this, you have to understand the nature of the demand. Very simplistically, I will split the demand into 3/3. 1/3 is local, 1/3 is expat, and 1/3 is the GCC nationals. So if there's 100 apartments, 100 people buying those apartments, the GCC portion of that has now shifted from the demand bucket to the supply bucket. So now you have 133 apartments for 67. The 33 expats, we all know that the price of gasoline, the price of oil, has now affected their earning power and their discretionary cash. Therefore, the 33 there is gone down. Not to mention the geopolitical developments of them making visas to go to the Gulf difficult, the people that have had to leave forcibly from the Gulf region and so forth. So this is the reason why the demand equation has been affected. Now, why am I mentioning just the Gulf and the price of oil? Because in reality, we all talk about 7 million Lebanese in Brazil and 3 million in Colombia and so forth. In reality, those guys, they don't know Lebanon. They don't come here that often. Very, very few people speak Arabic even. United States of America and Canada, paycheck to paycheck. Europe, the same. The real Lebanese that have the discretionary buying power are the guys that are in Africa and the Gulf. That's the equation that matters. So the catalyst in our case is, price of oil, reduced government spending in the Gulf and Africa, the profits, and so forth. And of course, geopolitical developments that were mentioned by my fellow speakers. In Lebanon, we talk about a whole bunch of real estate concepts that I've never heard anywhere else. For example, we're different here and so forth. Mitr al-Hawa. There's also a concept I'm going to invent today. It's called Mitr al-Haki. Mitr al-Haki means, a guy in Anjar is putting his house up for $10 million. You ask him, why is it 10 million? Well, my neighbor put up his house for 9 million. Mine is nicer than his. But did he get any bids? No, but, that's what it's worth, $10 million in the suburbs of Anjar. And then there's always the elusive ghost Gulf national who's always buying, but the seller doesn't want to sell to him because he wants to keep the buyers local. You know, يجيني خليجي بده يشتري، انا ما بدي بيع لخليجي، بدي خليها عنك لانه بعد في خليجيه عم بيجوا على لبنان. The graph of pricing for the next 5 years, in my opinion, is very simple. It's going to be like this. Today we are at this part of the curve. This is the part of the curve I will call the destruction of dreams and shattering of myths stage. Here are some examples of the nonsensical myths and economic contraptions propagated in our market. First one, it has never happened here. Other than the fact that it has happened and it happens every 15, 20 years, even if it didn't happen before, you know, the guy sitting in Hiroshima on August 5th on his balcony saying there's never been an atomic attack anywhere in the world, he learned something different on August 6th, right? So never happened before, untrue, and even if true, doesn't mean anything. It will never happen here. We are different from anywhere else in the world. Again, nonsense. Prices haven't gone down. There's just no buying or selling. There's no leverage in Lebanon, therefore no bubble. Apart from the fact that it's false, there is leverage in Lebanon. Even if there's no leverage, leverage is not a necessary prerequisite for a bubble. Here's another one. Prices of apartments more than X, let's call it 300 meters, have gone down, but prices below 300 meters have not gone down. Can you see how mathematically that's not possible, right? 300 meters, 250 meters. 300 went down, 250 didn't go down. I want to buy the 250, what do I do now? I buy the 300. Therefore, it's less demand for 250, therefore 250 goes down. Or another mathematical proof, take the 300, split into two 150s, you've increased supply, so forth. The other issue we're having today is, who knows what the CPI change year on year was last year, 2014, 2015 in Lebanon? And if you bought a cappuccino for $1 today, in 2014, what is the average price of a cappuccino in 2015? Who knows the answer to that question? What is the rise, غلا المعيشي, year on year in Lebanon? Anybody know? 3%. It's -5, according to the website of the central bank. This is the first time there's deflation in Lebanon. When deflation in Europe took place, yani negative minus point something, what did they do to interest rates in Europe? If you put $100 in Sweden or Switzerland today, what do you get at the end of the year? They take their money. In Lebanon, what happened to the last treasury issue? What happened to the rates on that one? It went from 6 to 7, right? So here, instead of investing in a restaurant in Antilles for Ergili, right? I'll just put it in treasuries and earn 7% risk-free rate. Whether it's risk-free is another topic. Let's call it the risk-free rate, right? If you rent an apartment today in Lebanon, what is the rental yield? 4 to 5, you think? Really?
Much less.
Much less. It's less than 2. It's between 1 and 2%, okay? The risk-free rate in the US is about 2%. The cap rate, yani rental yield minus expenses in the US, is about, on average long term, is about 7%. Yani you're earning a risk premium of 5%. In Lebanon, the risk-free rate is 7%. The rental yield, even by your number, 5%, which is not accurate actually, it's negative, yeah. Okay, and Ashrafiyya today is definitely below 2%. I know that firsthand. I just signed the lease. Okay, so deflation plus high interest rates, catastrophic event. The banking sector, including Iskan, has joined the party a little bit too late. They are providing loans at the absolute top of the market with zero down payments. Zero down payments. This is the absolute definition of subprime. How are they providing zero down? By, I sign you a letter saying you pay 30%, right? The other problem is that, the other problem that we have today is also because of the denial, the state of denial, part of it, genuine denial, yani I'm just gonna wait, I'm not gonna sell, and part of it is frankly dishonesty. This is just simply postponing a problem and aggravating the situation. The opportunities are clear. If you're cash rich over the next 5 years, you will be a major winner. And the reverse is true. If you are long real estate, especially leverage, you will be riding the public bus, the عين الحسود تبلى بالعمى bus. What can be done? Banks, especially Iskan, should save their ammo and start lending when the prices adjust by at least 30%. They should avoid the blunder of lending now, and all this is going to be supply in the distressed market. We need transparency, a central repository of prices like the multiple listing services in the US. Today, you go to a broker, he'll show you what he knows, the other broker will show you what he knows. We need transparency in the market. This is good for the government, first of all, to pick up the right tax amount, but it's also good to bring back the trust, because once the trust is destroyed when the collapse starts, it's going to be very, very hard to bring it back. This topic, the final thing I'm going to say is that this is a little bit off the main thrust of it, but I don't know why we have a dollar peg in this country. Why don't we have a peg that's dependent on a weighted average of currencies by trade? Yani, what's the percentage of trade with the US? 5, 10%, right? Why is the dollar peg? Yani, why are we importing the US monetary policy to this country when it's not consistent with what we need today? Thank you.